into the future where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, do you remember the first time you heard a band like Nirvana? Do you remember hearing Pearl Jam? Do you remember hearing Rage Against the Machine? Do you remember that moment? Do you remember getting into that band? I remember that with Pearl Jam. Everyone was like, this is a great band. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not so sure about this. But here's the thing. I didn't have a compact disc player in my bedroom. So I had a tape of Pearl Jam. And I would put it on while I was doing my homework back in the day. And because it was on a tape, and because it was all the way on the other side of the room, because I couldn't, use a remote to digitally flick through the contents of this cassette tape, and I couldn't be bothered to get up and break whatever kind of concentration I had, which is very little at the time, bearing in mind my young ADD-addled brain, I would just leave that thing on playing in the background. And because I couldn't fast forward it, or because I didn't want to fast forward or rewind it or play the tape, or sort of change the tape rather, I wound up listening to that thing over and over again. And I think that's so cool. And I think that's something that's sad that we lose in this day and age of immediate digital gratification to every last one of our senses. I want it now. I want this thing delivered to my home right now. I want a song that I love right now. I want a TV show or a movie that I want to watch right now. This one doesn't appeal to me in the first 5 seconds. Next. And I think the reason that's sad is because that particular Pearl Jam tape ate its way into my consciousness. And music that I really wasn't sure about, didn't really think I liked all that much when I first encountered it. Because of the repetition, because I couldn't be bothered to get up and take out a tape or rewind it or fast forward it, it all kind of started to sink in. And by the third or fourth listen, I wound up really, really liking it. And I think about that. And I think about how I got into it. And then I think about how long ago that was. I think a lot of people, I think I even saw a meme. You ever see that meme? I'm still convinced that the 90s was 10 years ago, when in fact, significantly more than that. And what have you started hearing? You've started hearing these bands from your childhood. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, Green Day, Pearl Jam. And from my perspective, as a guy that programs radio stations, this is a very interesting one. Those bands have become classic rock. What does that mean about you and me? Give me an O, give me an L. Yeah. You can't slow the hands of time. You can't turn back the clock. You can't, sadly, relive your youth. And it's unthinkable, isn't it? Unthinkable that these bands are now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Why? Because it's been over 25 years since their first releases. Where did the time go? Blink of an eye. Incredible, right? Do you feel like a different person? Probably not. If you're like me, you probably arrived at adulthood and went, I thought I was going to grow into this entirely more sophisticated and different person, but I still like all the same stuff. I still like music. I still like all the same bands that I liked when I was growing up. I still like all the things that got me excited about the world when I was 16. But I'm not anymore. Imagine that. Now think back to when you were a kid, when you were 16. However old you were when these records were coming out. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way up to, say, age 20, 21, before you hit adulthood. If you said to you, where are you going to be in 25 years' time? Where are you going to be in 20 years' time? Would you have any idea? Seem like far off science fiction-y future. Where am I going to be in 20 years' time? Well, let's see. Based on the Back to the Future movies, I'll be riding around on my hoverboard and driving around in my flying car. That's what I'm going to be doing. And at the time, 2015 seemed so far away that the idea of hoverboards and flying cars seemed completely possible. By that time, so much is going to be different. And look, obviously in the field of digital technology, we've come on in leaps and bounds. But there's a very important reason. There's a very important reason why I'm asking you now to remember who you were 20 or so years ago. And think about how fast that time has passed. Why? Because the clock on the Ponzi scheme known as the Social Security and Medicare trust funds is rapidly running out. Let's start the show.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So in the blink of an eye, it's 2017. Can you think about who you are, what you were doing, or who you were and what you were doing this time 25 years ago? If you're just joining us, I have a hard time, as I'm sure you do, differentiating my 18-year-old self from my present-day self. And the reason I bring this up is because at the time when all these things were happening, when you're going to Lollapalooza and doing keg stands, enjoying the newfound music of bands like Jane's Addiction and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Tool and Rage Against the Machine, when all that was fresh and new, the idea of what was to come in 20, 25 years' time, well, like we said, that's the far-off science fiction-y future. That is the world of Back to the Future, and we're going to be on our hoverboards and in our flying cars. And things have changed in many ways, leaps and bounds, obviously digital technology being the main one. But I'm trying to point out how much, in a blink of an eye, we got to something that seemed unthinkably far off when you were a kid. And I bring this up because the scheme known as Social Security and Medicare is rapidly running out. That's going to happen sooner than you think. And we've all grown up going, oh yeah, the kids of today are paying into funds that won't exist when they're adults. And that seemed like tomorrow problems. That seemed like future you would have to worry about it. Like we've all heard it. But again, like the flying cars and Back to the Future, it seemed like the far-off science fiction-y yet to come. Well, that yet to come is almost here. Think about how quickly the last 20 years passed in your life. And hear this. The Treasury Department says that Social Security and Medicare trust funds will, for the most part, dry up in less than 2 decades. Abraham Lincoln once said, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." That's exactly what the government has done, and exactly what you cannot do. According to this report, the program will have enough revenue to cover only 77% of promised Social Security and Medicare benefits from 2018 to 2027, starting next year. We're going to see it peter off. Social Security is supposed to run deficits totaling $1.4 trillion and $4.9 trillion the following decade. What does that mean? Deficits. That's $1.4 trillion that they don't have. You've been paying into the system your entire adult working life, and it's not going to be there for you. The Non-Government Organization Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, I think part of the problem is, look, we've known this is coming for a very, very long time, but there are lots of government committees that have been looking into this sort of thing. And what have they been doing? Spinning their wheels, accomplishing nothing, twiddling their thumbs, going, yeah, we got to do something about this, and never, ever doing anything about it while eating up more of your tax dollars, trying to figure out how to put your tax dollars to use so they're going to be there for you when you hit retirement age, and nothing's been done. Like I said, Ponzi scheme. Call it what it is. The Social Security Administration will pay out $27 billion more benefits in 2017 than it's going to generate in tax revenue. Also, Disability Insurance Trust Fund is going to run out of reserves by 2028. And that failure to address the problem soon will lead to all Social Security beneficiaries seeing a cut in benefits within 17 years. That's what it says at UPI.com. I was reading this morning. They say that Social Security insolvency is no longer a problem for future generations. Yeah, like I said, the pigeons, the chickens, whatever the appropriate metaphor is, that situation is coming home to roost. Without action, current workers and even current retirees will face a 23% across-the-board cut in just a matter of a couple of years. In the grand scheme of things, less than 2 decades. So think about who you are now. How far are you from retirement? That jump from your teens to your mid-30s. That jump from your 20s to your 40s. That jump from your 40s to your 60s. That blink of an eye that it passed in. Last time, the last 2 decades, see how quickly those fell away? The next 2 are going to go even slower. And know that there's a very good chance none of this will be addressed. And know that you will more or less be on your own. And know that besides being sold a false bill of goods with regard to your future and the tax money that you're paying into your future, you have, not metaphorically, not in essence, not any roundabout way of saying it, you have been ripped off every single paycheck of your adult life because you are not going to be getting what was outlined as you enter the workforce. And I bring all this up not to be a harbinger of doom, but to say, got 20 to 25 years to figure this out. You, me, all of us, we need to figure it out on our own. We are made wise not by the recollection of our past, but by the responsibility for our future. George Bernard Shaw. Money making, skills on the mic, keep me paid every day, and for part of the battle, just bounce down, better act like you know.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on. Come on.
But AD, I hear you say, I've been paying into Social Security my entire adult working life, and now we're not going to be getting anything that's coming to us. We knew this, but we didn't know this. Like intellectually, we knew it, but we didn't appreciate the gravity of the situation. But now you're telling us in less than 20 years, we're going to be SOL when it comes to retirement money that we've been paying into. This Social Security, Medicaid, that's just gone. Yeah. We've been talking about this for years. It's been in the news for years. And everybody just went, that's a problem for the future. Well, the future, like I said, is here. And I bring all this up not to be, like I said, a harbinger of doom, but to go, all right, we got 20 years. It's time to get smart. It's time to start assessing the situation. It's time to look at your finances. It's time to start saving diligently. It's time to start acting in a manner that says, I'm going to need to look after myself. Now, if the government does, miracle of miracles, manage to figure this out, and there is some kind of Social Security windfall because they fix the problem by the time you hit retirement age, well then, perhaps that will be a little bit of gravy on top of what it is you're putting together for yourself. But we can learn a lesson. We can learn a lesson from our veterans. We say it all the time. It's an absolute crime that as you walk down the street and you run into homeless folks, 1 out of 3 homeless males is a veteran. It's an absolute crime, the elevated suicide rates in veterans. Homelessness, suicide. When young men and women are asked to pick up a gun and serve us and put their lives on the line to protect our freedom, they're not painted a clear picture of what happens to so many of them. Oftentimes, the Army military service is regarded as an investment in one's future, and it can be. I've seen it be that way for many people. I'm not knocking the entirety of the system, but there are so many people that are cast aside like broken toy soldiers after they get out of the service, and that's terrible. These are the folks that signed up to work for Uncle Sam, that signed up to defend Uncle Sam, and signed up to die for Uncle Sam if needs be. They should be at the top of the list. They should be the absolute top priority when it comes down to, all right, who do we have to look after? Who do we have to make sure is okay? And if they cast those folks aside, where do you think that leaves you and me? That leaves you and me in the empowered position of knowing that we are on our own and we better handle our business and we better approach the situation with personal responsibility. As always comes back to you, doesn't it? It's an uncomfortable truth. Always comes back to you, always comes back to me. Nobody's going to handle your life but you. Every day when you get up, you make decisions about how your life is going to go. And while that's daunting and that's scary, and in many ways that's no fun because we all want things to be looked after. We want to feel like your mom or your politician or your guidance counselor or whoever the hell it is that you relied on will continue to look after you. But no one is looking out for number one like you're looking out for number one. So take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. Take care of the people that you love. And it'll get you through. As long as you remember it falls to you. All right, Funkhauser. You know, I think we never got a chance to talk about Kermit the Frog yesterday. And there were some illuminating things that came out, courtesy of Jim Henson's kids, as to why the current Kermit the Frog was let go. Boggles my mind, though. Like, how do you lose that gig? Like, as a puppeteer, that's like the brass ring. That would be like if someone said, "Hey, AD, George Norrie or Garrison Keillor or Rush Limbaugh or like the biggest radio host on the face of the planet is getting ready to hang it up. Would you like to just walk into a situation that is completely tailor-made where you have this massive opportunity and audience?" Okay, sure, yeah. You mean just from out of nowhere, the greatest gig in the world for someone like me fell out of the sky? I would concentrate every single day on how I could not screw it up and just ride that out. You know what I mean? I mean, you're still blazing a trail. You're still being creative. You're still doing something that has got to be so creative and emotionally fulfilling. I mean, look, the word Henson, just by itself. You hear people in the entertainment world just go, "Oh, Henson. Oh, man. Oh, gosh. It would be so incredible to be just even a teeny tiny part of anything that has anything to do with the name Henson." I would know I'd arrived if I'd worked on something that was attached to Henson or Disney. Oh, wait. If you're Kermit the Frog, you get both. As children's entertainers and puppeteers, it doesn't really get better than being like a number one superstar in the world of the Muppets and Disney. And I can't for one tiny moment understand how this guy let all of that slip through his fingers. Absolutely blew my ever-loving mind. And we'll get into exactly how he managed to let that slip through his fingers a little later on. Right now, though, Funkhauser, let's take a look at the events of today. What is going on in the world? I mean, what's the big news?
Well, a rumor that O.J. Simpson's parole was in jeopardy.
Oh, hold on. if you're going where I think you're going with this, for the sake of protecting the license, which we learn with every responsible broadcasting test we take is the number one responsibility of a broadcaster. No, don't bleep. Just you can say it without saying it.
Put on my dancing shoes? Okay.
Put on your dancing shoes and delicately tiptoe through the tulips.
A rumor that the Juice, that the Juice's parole was in jeopardy after he was caught doing something,
really enjoying himself
in some place.
You know that episode of Seinfeld where George's mom walks in on him and she says, "I caught you treating your body like an amusement park." That's what OJ was allegedly doing. This is where you're going with that one, right?
He was trying to squeeze the juice.
Oh. Yeah. Parole, like, by the time you hear this, we might know something a little bit more about OJ's parole. As we're on the air locally, we don't know exactly what's going on, but oh, gee.
He sure is saying a lot of things, though, right now. I don't know what he's saying, but he's talking.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be a crazy twist of fate if, like, you spent these years in jail, you were just about to taste a little sweet, sweet freedom, and you were caught really enjoying yourself, if you know what I mean, and I think you do, in your cell, and that's what gets in the way of your freedom. Oh, man. Feel free to insert your own incredibly obvious piece of humor about OJ getting off wherever you want to. It's like we suspected all along. Hardened criminal. So what's the deal with OJ? What is the deal?
Okay, so
what is it? Again, to be a little Seinfeld. Yeah, what is the deal with OJ if he gets out? Right?
Since the 90s was like 5 years ago.
He can't, right, yeah, in our minds it was. Well, I mean, look how fondly people remember Seinfeld. I mean, I guess that's also because it's played in reruns in perpetuity. Like, I got Hulu specifically so I could have the full set of I already had the DVDs. Like, I had the full set of DVDs, which costs a pretty penny. I also have the Hulu subscription so I could watch them all in order because DVDs are clunky and I don't want to take them out of their box and scratch them because I've got, like, this weird sentimental attachment to them, even though I'm not a collector and I don't really like DVDs. But none of this changes the fact that you can watch Seinfeld literally on any channel at any time that you want to. So I guess that's part of the reason why it all feels so recent. But hey, by the same token, you can also switch on any alternative rock station in the country and hear Nirvana, Green Day, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and Rage Against the Machine. So I guess part of the reason why all that stuff feels so recent is because it's so ubiquitous. It just hasn't gone away. It made such a massive impact. People haven't gotten tired of it yet. But what is the deal with OJ? He can't earn money. Otherwise, it goes directly to Nicole Brown Simpson's family.
Yeah, he still owes like $33 million on that. But I guess
OJ's like 70 now. I don't think he's ever paying that back in this lifetime.
No. But he's getting $25,000 a month from the NFL. And that
right, and
is...
they can't touch his NFL money, right? Mm-hmm. That's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if...
Oh, and I think he can make money off of his signature still. I think anything that's involved with, like... I'm not sure about that one, but he's really eager to sign everything when he gets out.
You know, I don't even remember, but is that why he was going after that sports memorabilia so hardcore? You know, the stuff that landed him in prison? He was trying to regain a bunch of stolen property, he said. And maybe it was because, like, his sports memorabilia, if they can't touch football-related things, maybe that's his fiscal lifeline.
Well, I'm sure he'll answer that question at the parole hearing. Maybe when he's talking to the guy with the Kansas City Chiefs tie on, which is silly.
Is that happening right now? I'm not watching it.
Yeah, there's a guy talking to the Juice, and his tie is he's an obvious Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Bit of a football aficionado.
I saw this on SNL, I think. This exact thing.
It's crazy. Absolutely freaking bananas. You know who I bet is dreading a knock at the door? Kato Kalin.
Dreading? Dude, he's got a line probably. He's like, I can make money again.
Kato, yeah, but then you have to have the juice living with you. You know, like, hey, buddy, it occurs to me that
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant just
25 or so years ago, you were crashing on my couch an awful lot. Sort of need a place to stay.
Well, they're saying
I'll just make myself comfortable.
He may live with his
Where do
sister.
you keep the cutlery?
In Sacramento. He may go to Sacramento, or he may retire in Florida and play golf. But no one knows where the juice will appear. He'll be in jail till October, though. That's for sure.
Or where the juice will land. All right, what else?
Comedy Central is going to end at midnight with Chris Hardwick this August.
You know, I kind of liked that show. I almost sort of never got a chance to watch it. And it's one of those shows.
I went to it a couple times.
Yeah, and you know, it's one of those shows where it's so much better if you watch it live because people are tweeting and it's a real-time thing. And look, I think the only way you're ever going to get people to watch television is if it's live. You know, that's why all the singing competitions and the dancing competitions, like the live finales, are that much more exciting. Saturday Night Live suddenly has this added layer of intrigue to it because you know that when something's happening live, it's that much more exciting and that much you don't know what's going to happen. You know, especially with the internet, you know exactly what happened on Saturday Night Live 5 minutes ago because it's just, you can't get away from this sort of thing. You know exactly who won every dancing competition. There's no way of going, I watched, you know, I taped the Mets game. Nobody mentioned the score. You know, like you can't do that anymore. Spoilers are literally everywhere. So live television is a really big hook, which is, I think, why the at midnight idea with Chris Hardwick was such a good idea. But the problem is it's at midnight and that's late. And a lot of people are going to bed. So I guess it had a good run, though. What was it? 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, probably. At least that. A lot of comedians on there, too, got their spotlight.
Yeah, these aren't shows that are meant to go forever. So they had a good run. And you know what that means? If it's ending when? August?
Yeah.
Well, after August, fans of Chris Hardwick will only be able to catch him on one of the other 800 shows that he hosts literally every week. That guy's so unbelievably busy. Like, yeah. He's the
Ryan Seacrest of radio. Television.
No, Ryan Seacrest is a Ryan Seacrest of television. Right. He's sort of like the fringe Seacrest, I think. You know, like he started the whole Nerdist thing. That's his baby. But I liked at midnight with Chris Hardwick because like everything else he does is he's a third wheel to it. Like what's that show he does? Talking Dead. It's like this TV show is, and doesn't he do a wrap up on Game of Thrones or something like that?
Probably.
I don't know. Like all that stuff is sort of like, you know, you become a third party to something that's already existing, and that's an industry, and that's cool. But at midnight was him, and so I'll be bummed when that goes away. I actually got a soft spot for the work of Chris Hardwick.
You're waiting to get washed away.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again.
You know, we'll discuss the intrigue and subterfuge behind the firing of Kermit the Frog a little later on in the show, but didn't want to go throughout the entirety of what we were doing today without talking a little bit about John McCain and his diagnosis of brain cancer. This is obviously no fun for anyone. And in many ways, this guy still is, because his heroism as a member of our military does not go anywhere, does not go away, that he served our country, does not go anywhere, that he laid his life on the line to protect us and our freedom. But the one thing that I noted about it, and it's great to see it happen, but it's also a little depressing that this sort of thing isn't the norm. The bipartisan support, outpouring of sympathy, whatever you want to call it, everyone from Trump to Obama, and everyone in between suddenly seems to be able to put aside their differences and talk about their support and their admiration for this man. The disagreements that they had politically, those haven't gone anywhere. They're still fundamentally opposed to one another in many ways. But my question to you, I suppose, in this situation is why can we not do this in good times as well as bad? Why can we not respect one another, celebrate our differences, say, you know what? We're all Americans. When did anybody that believes anything that is even vaguely different to our beliefs become the sworn enemy of everything that is good? We talk about it all the time. Just because somebody voted differently than you doesn't mean they're an evil a-hole that hates America. We all want the same stuff. We all want the same things. We all have the same goals and dreams and aspirations in this world. We all want to be able to have food and shelter, have that house, have that home that's safe for you and the people that you love. You've got kids, you want them to have a real shot at a life in this world. And we have different beliefs in terms of what we think might be the best way for all of us to get there. But if we recognize the fact that we're all headed in the same direction, we all want the same thing, we all want to arrive at the same destination, maybe we could listen to each other and learn something from one another in these times. And it's sad. It's sad that it takes something like a war hero's brain cancer for the people that are running, in essence, the world to stop and go, oh, man, you know, above all, I respect you and you're my fellow American and I care about you. I want only the best for you. And we're praying for the best possible outcome in this situation. Why does that respect have to fly out the window? Why have we as a community of people become so blinded to the fact that we're all on the same team? Anyways, I guess we'd call her our former coworker, right? Funkhauser, Megan McCain, used to be up the hallway from us at Premier Radio Networks. She wrote a beautiful and touching statement, but it was the end of it. The end of it that I love so much. She said, "My love for my father is boundless, and like any daughter, I cannot and do not wish to be in a world without him. I have faith that those days remain far away. Yet even in this moment, my fears for him are overwhelmed by one thing above all: gratitude for our years together and the years still to come. He is a warrior at dusk, one of the greatest Americans of our age, and the worthy heir to his father and grandfather's name. But to me, he is something more. He is my strength. He is my example, my refuge, my confidant, my teacher, my rock, my hero, my dad." Beautiful. All right, Funkhauser, let's roll through what remains of the news, and then we'll talk about exactly what's going on with the frog. We have to get to the frog today. We've been teasing. Why does it sound dirty to say we've been teasing the frog? But we ran out of time.
We've had this frog in our throat for several days now. It is now time to release the frog.
We got to, again, release the frog sounds dirty too, but we have to make sure. If I appear to be going a little bit long, stop me in time to discuss the frog, okay?
Okay, all right. There's a movie called Baba Land, which is just
I heard about this.
8 hours of slow motion footage of sheep in a field.
I guess it's a take on La La Land. And repeat what it is one more time. So
it's 8 hours of slow motion footage of sheep in a field.
Yeah, I think its producers are calling it the dullest movie ever made. No, literally, the producers say it's the dullest movie ever made. Guess I didn't see the most recent Transformers movie. Go on.
Kevin Hart was busted cheating on his pregnant wife.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Allegedly. He was allegedly cheating on his pregnant wife. Like, he was out painting the town red with some other female while she's at home carrying his child. And this, if this turns out to be true, this is, I think, textbook Kevin Hart relationship stuff. Because his current wife, the pregnant one, I believe that was the woman he was cheating on his last wife with. That's right, Funkhauser.
Oh, it's all just a little bit of history repeating.
Oh, very good, very good. Kevin Hart cheating on a pregnant wife. If that's true, that's true. That's not cool. Wow. More like Kevin without a heart. Go on.
Aww. Ed Sheeran is still around. He will appear on an upcoming episode of The Simpsons.
I saw that. And you know what? I think that he might be the only person who looks more realistic as a cartoon.
This feels so understand. Started from here. I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.
There's something about this guy. This guy on his knees at the front of the stage, howling through a mane full of dreadlocks that obscure his face. He's captivating. He's simultaneously vulnerable and intimidating. You don't know how and you don't know why, but you know that he's got some mileage on him. You know that he's seen more of the world than you have, and not all of it has been pleasant. You can tell this is a guy who's had to fight his way through much of his life. You can just tell. I'm a teenager in a band on my first tour of America. We just gotten a massive, ridiculous, overblown major label record deal that was in direct conflict with my do-it-yourself punk rock sensibilities. And we were crisscrossing the country before our album was out. Sometimes we'd play to tens of thousands. Sometimes we were playing to thousands of tens. And I enjoyed both just as much. A moving vehicle becomes my home. I read, I sleep, I listen to music for 23 hours a day. The remaining hours spent on stage, hanging from lighting rigs, screaming my lungs out, doing my best to start something people remember everywhere we go. And it works. I look back at the album we've made, and it has moments I'm extremely proud of, as well as some I'd rather forget. But one thing I knew, we knew, and everyone who saw us knew, is that we were the best live band you'd seen in a long time and the best live band you'd see for a while. When we played on a bill before a much bigger group, I made sure that by the time we were done, they knew, and the audience knew, that we weren't opening for them. They were closing for us. I would literally bleed to make the show happen. If there were 2 people or 200 or 2,000 people in a room, I would make sure that they were mine, all mine for that hour. Having lived on a steady diet of Henry Rollins and Public Enemy for the past several years, I'm overflowing with punk rock principles and earnest integrity. I'm a dedicated vegan, and my tour diet becomes Denny's house salads and white toast. I become anemic, I get head rushes, and when my tour manager suggests supplements and vitamins and protein shakes, I tell him I'm punking it out. I don't need any special treatment. I carry gear that I don't have to carry, so the people around me don't think that I feel like the job of frontman makes me any different or better from anyone else that are part of the shows we play. I tell everyone from audience members to the girl working the coat check to bouncers to sound men and the other band members and crew that we're all an equal part of making this night what it is. I shake hands with every fan, sign every piece of merchandise, put Kids Without Money on guest lists, learn how to settle and cash out at venues at the end of the night in as much of a do-it-yourself manner as possible. In my young mind, I'm writing my own version of Henry Rollins' Get in the Van. In my young mind, Chuck D approves of everything I do. One way I ensure my punk rock cred is solidified is by making sure that I support the opening band at all of our shows. I make sure that I'm around. I encourage whoever else is there to check them out. I buy their shirts, and when they offer me CDs to pass on to our record label or our management, I insist on paying, saying that I'm not going to take food off their table or the shirt off their back. Here's the thing, though. Ambitiously youthful punk rock work ethic and steadfast principles aside, the vast majority of the bands that are opening for us, they weren't all that memorable or great. To this day, Despite my earnest punk rock manifesto of equality, non-pretense, and anti-egoism, I remember very few of them. But this is a guy I won't forget. This guy who is on his knees at the front of the stage on a sweltering hot night in Phoenix, Arizona, is for some reason that I can't really figure out someone I'll always remember. Not that much later, my manager pops on some music in the car as we're driving to see Incubus play. We're really excited about this, he says. What do you think? I stop on one song. First, because it reminds me of Depeche Mode, and I can't place which song, but then I listen over and over again. It's a song that I wish I'd written, a song that says everything I've been trying to say, a song that captures a sense of hopelessness that we all meet as we're nearing adulthood, and one that will, as these things do, return to plague us periodically throughout our lives. This song heals me, as it puts into words exactly how I'd felt countless times. It articulates how I feel before I knew I felt that way. Hearing these words come through the speakers in its own way is as valuable as if I'd said them myself to a therapist. It's cathartic, it's freeing, and I can't stop listening to this song. This is going to be huge, I say to my manager. I make him play the song all the way to the show and all the way back. Yeah, ever since they got their new singer, things have really started to click for this band, my manager tells me. Months later, I'm in New York City, and that band, who we share management with, is there too. Our manager and the head of our record label have decided to treat us to a night at the strip club. Really, they were treating themselves. We are all painfully young, and as old rich men fish never-ending supplies of $20 bills out of pockets and off of bulging money clips, we're all more than a little out of our element. But the singer of the band, whose demo CD I've now worn out, is introduced to me. He comes up to me and says, "Hey, I don't know if you remember, but a little while ago, I opened for you with my old band in Arizona." Mentally, I shear away a tangle of matted hair and realize this guy standing in front of me is that same guy, that same intimidatingly arresting singer who transfixed a room full of people, myself included, in Phoenix. Wait, I say, wait, that was you? You were amazing, and wow, what a small world. He'd been recruited into this band, whose name kept changing, by the same A&R guy that had signed me when I was a teenager, and we shared management, and we'd played together. Like I said, it was a small world. He was warm, he was funny, and he was friendly, and I liked him even more when I noticed that he kept a respectful distance from the dancers at the club because of the woman he was committed to. "Yeah," he said, "you were great too. We're hoping that we can be where your band is pretty soon." "Dude, that one song," I reply. "I mean, it's going to happen. I love all the songs on your demo, but that one song kind of reminds me of Depeche Mode. The one about how in the end, everything you've worked for doesn't matter. That song's amazing," I tell him. He is genuinely elated that I think it sounds like Depeche Mode. "Dude, I've always wanted to be in that band. I'm glad you caught that. I'm Chester, by the way, and I can't wait to play some shows together." We never did play shows together. Our record label was swallowed up by some multinational corporation, and my ridiculous over-the-top record deal, which had offended my steel-hearted resolve to be the ultimate in anti-establishment punk rock street cred, seemed a lifetime away when I delivered a pizza to the New York City recording studio where I'd recorded my album a while back. In hindsight, what with its propensity for being 2020, all the money in tour buses and roadies didn't seem like that bad of an option compared to my burnt-out 10-year-old Mercury Sable and the engineers who'd worked for me previously over-tipping me out of pity. That song, though, I was right about that. That really was something. The band debuted at #1. Venues and crowds and radio and video play were unprecedented. They became, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the biggest bands in the world. And then they just became the biggest band in the world. Eventually, I graduated from delivering pizzas to spinning records for a living and somehow managed to weasel my way onto the radio, where my job now was playing Chester's records, each bigger and better than the last. And I love my job. I truly do. It's a dream come true to be able to share music and laughs and conversation with you. Radio is magical, and I thank my lucky stars every time I walk through the studio doors. Occasionally, though, when I cross paths with the band that started life with the name Zero spelled with an X instead of a Z, that was an interesting one. As I see the enormity of the Project Revolution tours and the artistically groundbreaking and genre-shattering collaborations that they do with the likes of Jay-Z and Snoop Dogg and my childhood hero Chuck D of Public Enemy, I stop and I marvel and I think, wow, these guys They really, really did it. They achieved everything that they wanted to and more. And then they achieved some more. 15 years or so after our initial meeting, I bump into Chester backstage at one of the Buzz Station shows. He's singing with one of his favorite bands, Stone Temple Pilots. I chatted with other members of his main group before, but this was the first time I'd spoken to Chester in all that time, all those years. He remembers me instantly, and he lights up when we talk about how our paths crossed years ago. Dude, I still want to be in Depeche Mode, he tells me. Well, I like your chances, I say. The Stone Temple Pilot thing worked out, so why not? By the way, how's all this going? He looks at me, and his eyes fills with no small amount of gratitude, and he says, I'm living the dream. It's not boastful. It's not bragging. It's not ego-driven when he tells me this. It's the recognition of the fact that the stars, planets, heaven, and earth have aligned, and he's gotten everything that he ever wanted. Now the guy who literally had it all is gone. A voice that reached millions and spoke for them will never be heard again. As I think about the obvious question, how could a man who had so much not want to continue? Like a lot of people, I'm saddened and I'm sickened that this happened. I'm filled with sorrow for his friends, his band, and most importantly, his family, especially his 6 children. And you know, I saw it in his eyes. He loved what he did. He was filled with gratitude for all of it. As people mourn in disbelief and protest that they don't understand how he could have made this terrible, foolish choice when he literally had the world at his feet, I think that, well, it's not like he didn't have enough. It's not like he didn't have the things that on paper would have made him happy. What I think is that these things aren't that simple. If you or anyone you know is going through something like this, chances are people won't understand because they can't understand the way they can't understand what Chester chose to do. So please, please, I beg you, please talk to someone who will understand. Call 800-273-8255. 800-273-8255. Good night, Chester.
I closed both locks below the window. I closed both